Welcome to another episode of A Second Helping, the wedding podcast with a focus on second shooting. I'm your host, Allison Bartow, and today I'm excited to have an awesome guest joining us, the talented wedding photographer, Adam Lowndes. Adam describes himself as a 6'7", personality-led wedding photographer who loves people, pizza, and dogs. He's the owner of Adam Lowndes Photography in the UK, and in addition to being an amazing photographer, he's also a gifted educator. You can catch his beautiful work and helpful videos on Instagram under the handle Adam Lowndes Photography. So join us for an insightful conversation with Adam as we dive into the world of wedding photography, talk about how his first photography job was coming to Pennsylvania and working for 10 weeks as a sports photographer at a summer camp, and some of the differences between the US and the UK when it comes to wedding photography practices. Stay tuned for an episode filled with valuable insights and fresh perspectives. Let's get started. First, Adam, can you give us a little introduction?
My name is Adam Lowndes. I'm a wedding photographer from Staffordshire in the UK, where I live with my sausage dog and my wife. And I generally shoot weddings within 1 to 2 hours of my house, and I've been doing that for 14 years and love it.
I know I found you on Instagram and I started following you. I don't remember what the initial post was, but then in following up on you, you've got a social media workshop, you teach classes, and there's a few other things, but I wanted to first start with wedding photography in general. And I know that you got your first camera when you were 9, but when did you get into photography and then wedding photography?
Wow, the deep dive. Yeah, so I was basically at university, sort of pondering life. I was already into photography quite a bit, substantially. I had my first DSLR, and I actually went over to America to go to summer camp because they do a little kind of exchange service in terms of you send us your cheap camp counselors and we'll give them hardly any money but a great experience type thing. And I was hired as a camp counselor not too far from, I believe, Milford, Pennsylvania is not too far from where you are. I looked it up on a map and it's yeah. I thought I'd save that for the podcast.
Yes, I used to work with a girl from Milford, PA, and she was like the harvest princess or the harvest queen. They do like an annual small town thing.
That sounds about right.
Oh my gosh.
Very small town.
That's amazing. In all of the United States, you were in Milford, PA. Well, wow, what an exciting United States experience for you there.
Yeah, very, very, very interesting, considering I'd only ever been to Florida twice. So yeah, it's a very jarring different experience. But so I spent the summer taking photographs at a summer camp and just absolutely adored the fact that it was such an exciting job. Every day I'd head out, take loads of photographs of the kids doing their little sports and that, head back to the office at night and then upload them. Yeah, so absolutely it was like, oh, this is kind of what I want to do for a job. So headed back to the UK and approached my sort of university counsellor, as it was at the time, and said, how about I swap to photography? Because I was currently doing a video games design degree. So they were like, yeah, you can swap, but you'll have to go back a year and start all over again. And I was like, nah, no one got time for that. I was like, I want to get out of university, not start again. So I stuck to what I was doing, and meanwhile, whilst I was doing that, my sister asked me to photograph her wedding, and that was my first official wedding. So, this year I'm just about to complete the full set of siblings. So I've done my brother's wedding as well over the years, and then this year I'm going to do my wife's brother's wedding. So
wow, all
the siblings.
Well, that's nice.
Checked off. Yeah.
So, what year was that you shot your sister's wedding?
So I was way back in 2010 now. So yeah, I was working a part-time job at the time as well. And then that part-time job became a full-time job that was in retail. Over those years, slowly picking up more and more weddings each year. And then I got promoted to a position where I didn't really have time to do anything like personally. So my weddings sort of dropped down a bit. My wife then got AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, which is very rare blood cancer.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that was in 2017, and I'm laughing about it now because it's just the story's absolutely mental. I like when I tell it back,
Yeah.
and yeah, she was basically in hospital for a year. Had a stem cell transplant from a German man, so they flew it over Europe, and yeah, it saved her life and gave our life some perspective as well. And I said, yeah, screw this retail job, let's go and do something a bit more exciting. And that's when I went full time. So yeah, 2018 till now, so 6 years now.
Wow. Yeah. Nothing like a near-death experience to really put things in perspective. So
Big time.
she's okay now?
Yeah, she's all, well, as much as you can be after you've had something so aggressive. But yeah, she lives a normal life now, and she does part-time work instead of full-time work. And that's like a choice that we've made. But my career doing this has more than allowed us to make that decision. So yeah, it's sort of, obviously a terrible situation, but some great things have come out of it, and we spend a lot more time together now than we ever did before. So yeah.
Oh, well, I'm glad that it ended that way and that there's, a silver lining to it. So,
yeah.
Wow. Getting into wedding photography then, when you decided, forget about retail, I want to do this full time. How did you start finding wedding clients?
Yeah, so strange one, really. This was back in the day when Facebook ads actually worked. Well, I say Facebook ads still work, but just in terms of when you used to be able to just go on a post and be very vague with your catchment and just put engaged couples between the ages of this. And so I spent probably between £1,000 and £2,000 on adverts, which is not really that much when it fetches you most of your work for the year. But then more so, it was about those somewhat like 7 to 8 years beforehand, where I'd slowly just been becoming the guy with the camera and the guy who did weddings here and there. And I'm very lucky that my mom, she's part of a big church here in the UK, and that had a big population of young adults who are all meeting each other and getting married. So I've really benefited from that connection, especially given that I'm a big time atheist as well. So it's really profited off that situation there. And
my God, that's great.
Yeah,
I wasn't expecting you to say that after saying your mom goes to this big church.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah, that's some good networking then on her part for you. That's great.
Yeah, big time. I'm always into the idea that you've got to sort of just be on even keel terms with as many people you can possibly meet. My dad, when we were younger, said to us, he was like, always be nice to like people and always leave it, at an average point, because you never know when you're going to run back into them again. And, so many times in my life, 8 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, I've ran into someone that I used to know for a moment in time, and they've gone, oh yeah, he was always kind of all right. Mm-hmm. And now he does wedding photos. So yeah, let's give him a shout.
Yeah, if you've burned bridges or not been kind, it can certainly catch up to you. So good advice for sure. You started shooting weddings. As you got started, did you do any assisting or second shooting for other photographers?
So I did a little bit here and there, but to be honest, I was very much in the case of shooting the budget end weddings at the start, and that was my kind of practice arena. And that was a very clear conversation with myself and the couples most of the time. Yeah, okay, you're getting me for absolutely nothing, and here's why. That kind of conversation. So yeah, they knew what they were getting into, I knew what I was getting into, and it took the load off me and gave me somewhere to sort of become accustomed to how weddings work and how things go. But yeah, I did a little bit of seconding for different people and really benefited off just seeing how they worked, taking what I could from what they were and transforming that into what I wanted to be. And then also, seeing other things that, I didn't want to take over, and yeah, leaving them ones with them or walking away. But yeah.
What were some things that you saw that you said, wow, I don't want this in my business, or I don't want to be that type of wedding photographer?
Yeah, I think most of the times it's to do with personality. So the person they are on the day and the person I want to be on the day, and, knowing my kind of strengths when it comes to those situations. So I'm very much loud and kind of excitable personality. So when I went, I can always remember I used to second shoot for a girl, and we used to do some video together as well at the same time. So every now and again, like one of us would do a bit of video, and she'd make a very small sort of like lo-fi highlights reel with it. And they always looked great. But something I wasn't very much used to was keeping quiet behind the camera. I'm very loud. I talk quite a lot. I influence the couples in front of the camera quite a lot. And not much to the case of like disrupting the day all the time. It's more to do with when I need that extra moment, or I need that extra influence to just gently poke something in the right direction. I'll just crack a little terrible dad joke or something, or say something that's just going to gain a little bit of a reaction. And that's almost like a nervous tick and makes me feel comfortable when I'm shooting. So when I was shooting next to her and she was pretty much 90% quiet the whole entire day, I felt mightily uncomfortable and didn't really know what to say other than bite my tongue for most of the day.
It's so hard when you realize you have to be quiet too, because I think I do that with brides and grooms, because you can tell they're nervous. So sometimes just, having a little conversation or just something to kind of distract them and, calm them down can be good. So I'm always in tune to that during the day. But yeah, being quiet all day would be really hard, because that's the beauty of photography. We can talk as much as we want. Now, I was looking at your pictures online and your video, and it looks like you're currently shooting Nikon. Is that true?
That's true, yeah.
Have you always shot Nikon?
Yeah, people ask me this all the time, can I recommend a camera? Can I tell them about my cameras? And it's going to be pretty sort of limited knowledge on the tech over here. But basically shoot Nikon because my dad bought me a DSLR Nikon back in the day. And it's just always been the kind of thing to stick with. It's, it's the home, when it comes to photography, and something I've always loved using in the interfaces. And it came to a point when I was switching from DSLR and mirrorless. I'm not sure if have you made this switch?
I did make the switch. I'm Nikon mirrorless as well.
Yeah. So it comes to the point where you switch, and it's a bit sort of a dangerous moment, because it's a bigger jump than you would expect it to be. And I was considering going to Sony at one point. But there was just something that kind of put me off, and I liked the idea of just sticking with the kind of similar colours that I was used to. I heard a lot of people, maybe not necessarily complaining, but almost like just discussing the Sony colours and how they couldn't get them to behave in the way they wanted them to behave with other cameras, such as the Canon, the Nikon cameras as well. So yeah, it was sort of the thing I stuck with, and then I'm really glad I've stayed there now, because I got the Z8 last year. That's just been revolutionary compared to the 6.2s that I was using before.
Same boat. I had two Z6.2s, and I was at a lighting class, and the instructor partners with Nikon, and he was raving about the Z8. He likes it more than the Z9, and so I traded in the one Z6.2 for the Z8, and I love it.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
Yeah, I've been so happy with it. So, when I first started, I think I had like a Minolta X700 in college, and gosh only knows, I probably had like a Canon point shoot when I was little. So you've been Nikon all the way through.
Yeah, other than a Kodak point and shoot at one point, that was about it. But yeah, we don't have to count that one if you don't want to.
No, you can leave that one out. So now, along the way, when did you start teaching?
Oh, so, gosh, so I'm just trying to think back now. That was just something, I went to a conference once and saw people up there and just got very excited at the thought of that. I think it all really stems back to possibly my first couple of years entering like the wedding photography industry and talking to other wedding photographers, and it taken a while for me to find my people within the industry, and people I could count on, people I could chat with quite candidly. The kind of people I found at the start were, I would probably say, the old guard in a way, who were very protective and gatekeeping with their secrets, and I put secrets in inverted commas. And yeah, had a run-in with one or two of them as sort of trying out. They claimed, stealing photo ideas here and there and stuff, but I was just very fresh to the game, and when you're fresh to the game and you don't know what you're doing, you see other people that you admire, and you try and recreate what they're doing, because their photos are gorgeous. And then I can remember reading something years later after I felt terribly bad about all that moment that went down, and I can remember it saying, at the start of when we're like sort of setting out. It was something along these lines. I'm going to butcher it now, but it was basically saying it's impossible to sort of make your own thing. So you copy until you gain guidance through yourself to create something. And that's kind of where I found that. So the teaching kind of came from that, really, that I started being really open with all my knowledge from that point onwards, especially within like wider communities and stuff. And I've often been known to post absolutely massive essays to do with anything within wedding photography and more so business related stuff, because that's definitely where my sort of talents lie. And yeah, people sort of responded to it really well. And it's just been something I've slowly been growing throughout time, really. And it's something I really care about. I just feel like if we all sort of banded together, yeah, we could make photographs better. And I don't know if you're going to ask me this, but something people always ask me is, aren't I worried about, teaching everyone my secrets and then losing my job? But I don't really see it like that, because something I've found over the years is, I've done a course before and I've told everyone everything, thinking that they would go off straight away and do exactly the same and then run me out of business. And it just doesn't happen, because it's the person behind all those ideas that make them possible. And, it's that commitment that you've got. And everyone's set up at home as well socially is just completely different. So where I allow loads of times to do things like social media and stuff, other people just don't have that time, or they just don't naturally enjoy it. So it comes a lot harder for them. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, really.
I think it's true. I think that, the first part you were talking about people, maybe imitating someone's style. And I think you do see that until people find their voice. And
imitating is a much better word than I said copying. So thank you.
But a little bit too. You see someone with the lighting or something and you do kind of copy it until, because you're learning and figuring things out. And as well, which obviously you hope someone finds their own style and doesn't continue to, just copy what someone else is doing.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, I love continuing education and just talking to people and learning more about photography. And I've met some educators that say like they'll share everything because they know, no one's actually going to be able to sit down and replicate everything that they're doing. People sign up for courses thinking like, oh, I'm going to take all this information and implement it. And it's almost impossible to do all of it. So I really think the people that recognize that and say like, you know what, I'll share everything. And if someone can take a few things from it and benefit and grow and do their thing, it's great. So I think it's wonderful that you share so much, because it's going to be impossible for someone to just replicate everything that you're doing.
Exactly. And I think at the time as well, when we're doing it, like that's already like old information to me in a way. I'm already working ahead of that. So I've got that and some more in a way as such. I'm currently sort of treading new ground with different things to work that out. So even if they did implement it all, by the time they did, I'd be even further ahead already.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, everything is, not getting outdated, but essentially things are changing so quickly. So that's a good point too. Now, a few things that I saw. So I know that you rarely use a second shooter. Do you ever use a second shooter or an assistant for your weddings?
So I think this is a bit of a US-UK divide, because I know the US are big into like second shooters and more so assistants as well. Like I think that's coming in more now in the UK. You see a lot of people sort of using that, and the assistant thing is really picking up some speed as well. But I've always made it like more of a point that I don't use them. My weddings are normally pretty much the same kind of like at the guts. They're normally about 50 to about 100 people in the day, and then going up to maybe about 120, 130 in the evening. And I never really find that I can't photograph that whole day as such, even when it comes to things like doing both sides of the prep in the morning, wherever they may be. I just make sure to educate the couples that, I'm only one person, I can't be in two places at once. So if you want me to photograph both, then make sure you're kind of getting ready together close together, or, there's a way to get between you, or, maybe we build something else into it. So maybe rather than shoot the guys actually getting ready, we shoot them when they arrive at the venue and they're having drinks together and things like that. So, and the positives around doing so is that I just get to be on my own all day. And when I'm on my own, I can better implement myself into the wedding day and just be one of the guests. And everything I do is based around that. So, for example, when it comes to gear, I shoot one camera. So I think I'm a pretty massive rarity when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I listened to one of your other podcasts, and you were discussing 135, 185, or 105 sort of thing. And yeah, I basically just one camera all day now, and that was partly because I had a bit of a bad back one year and I wanted to slim down. So I have a little Peak Design 6 litre that's got a couple of lenses in, spare body obviously, can't take too many risks,
right?
And then I have a AD100 in there as well, which I love to use off camera. And then I just have a 35 8 or 50 mil or 24 or maybe even the 85 at some points. And I think when you've been doing it a while, wedding days are pretty much pre-designed, aren't they? Even if the couple thinks it's going to be this big, unique day, you can kind of foresee things coming before they actually happen. So if you're switched on in your head, you know that it's going to be a 50 mil moment coming up, or you know that it's going to be a 35 or a 24, or you can try 85 because you've got the room to do that. And yeah, it's about having that knowledge to do that. I would nowhere near recommend anyone to do this straight off the bat. It does take a lot of experience, and I had many years of doing the 35-85 combo or 24-70, 70-200 or something. And with that one camera, you're just so much more incognito, and I'm not dancing around with massive straps on for cameras or huge backpacks. I just sling my backpack in a corner, and I've got my little satchel which barely stays on me all day, and I just dance around with one camera, and it's fantastic.
I mean, that I can't even imagine. Maybe someday, but yeah, I get it, because you know exactly what you need. So you've been able to get rid of anything extraneous. I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum where I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I need X? And also I do a lot of second shooting. So I also feel like I need to be prepared in case the lead photographer needs something. And it's like, oh, can you use the 70-200? So, I just always make sure I've got all these options. But I think someone like you, it makes you a better shooter when you don't have all that stuff, dragging you down, and you're able to stay in the moment. And it really seems to me like you become almost friends with your couple, and you're part of the day in a way that is more so than most wedding photographers.
Yeah, 150 million %. It's very much the case. I just love embedding myself in the day, and I find you can just do that so much more when, number one, you're not dragged down by another person, and number two, you just don't stick a load of gizmos on yourself that makes you stand out as the photographer.
Yeah, because I think sometimes when people see all the gear, they can be like, oh boy, it's going to be a long day. They get nervous about all the portraits and everything. I'm typically shooting the guys with, the groom prep and the groomsmen and things like that. So I'm always trying to make sure that, they're not getting nervous about a long day of posed photos. That was something else I saw. You do portraits in a shorter amount of time. What's your method for that?
Yeah, so I think that's another divide between the continents here, is more so that over here we get less time for portraits. So I could have I've had 5 minutes, 10 minutes before on some wedding days to do portraits. And I don't like to confuse it too much. And I think this year, obviously this is our off season at the moment. I don't know if you have an off season over there, but I did my last wedding on November the 2nd last year, and I've got my next one mid-February, and then it really kicks off at the end of March. Okay. So I love this time because it's downtime to sort of think about where we're going and stuff and what we're going to do for the new year. And something I'm really excited about is my portraits for the new this year coming, because I'm just going to keep them so much more relaxed than I would normally do. And my main thing is that I lead with light, and then I look for composition, and then I look for moments. And when you're doing that, it really reduces the amount of decisions you have to make. And that's the same for the lens choice as well. So like you said before, it really helps you stay focused. So if I've just got the 35mm on and I don't really want to bother changing, I've got to find something with the 35 that works with the light and the composition I can create right in front of me. So it really slims down your options then, and you can really lean into that one area of creativity and it not be overwhelming as such. I find that, I don't know about you, but when you get those venues where the couple say, oh, and we've got 40 acres of rolling grassland and castles and beaches and stuff, that makes me feel a bit unsettled, because I'd rather just have it be a city wedding and the couple be panicked about where they're going to have the photos, and me just absolutely knock out of the park.
Right. Yeah. It is scary when people have expectations. The same thing like when people want to do like a walkthrough of the venue, and it's like, you know what, the light's going to be different, and, you know, the timing, and it's different, and trees will be cut down, or, you know, things will be moved.
Yeah.
So that's
leaves will be disappeared.
Exactly.
Everything.
When it comes to posing, how much posing are you doing? Are you prompting your couples? What are you doing for that? Yeah,
so because I'm led by the light quite a lot of the time, I don't like this whole, I see this quite a lot with other people's work, and, you know, credit to them. If they can sell weddings on it, great, and it works for them and they love it, fine. But it just really irks me. It's a one where, you know, if you've got a hetero couple, you've got the guy always with his back to the light, so he's got the light on the back of his head and it's always on the girl. And I get that, you know, I see what they're kind of doing there, but I really like to get the light on both their faces. So, and sometimes when it comes to do that, you need to do a little bit of posing, you know, whether it's as small as, oh, you're just going to talk to each other but look in this direction, or whether it's I fully move their bodies and put them in different positions, which sometimes when I look back on, I can love the composition and light, but then think the pose looks a bit too staged sometimes. Hence why I'm looking at the more kind of relaxed angle for the coming year.
Yeah. And I think that's true too. I think a lot of times with a hetero couple, it is so much focus on the bride and not as much on the groom. And I think that's a good thing to be aware of. For sure. Now, the other thing I saw is that you don't do group shot lists.
Yeah.
Did you used to at one point?
I was like, yeah. So this is another one of those things, really, you know, in a landscape of wedding photographers where, you know, it's becoming quite oversaturated with how great people are out there, and, you know, everyone's got an Instagram presence and everyone's doing this. You've got to find ways to sort of separate yourself, and a lot of the time I listen to my couples quite a lot and hear what they say. And number one, they don't like going off for portraits for too long. So let's make the portraits quicker. Let's do things faster. Let's move on, you know, in a more timely manner. And then say the next one is that every wedding they describe where they've had a bad experience, it's been the group shots. So I sort of set out to sort of eradicate that issue in a way. And I heard a lot of people saying, you know, they'll grab a bridesmaid or they'll grab a groomsman to help them with this list, and it makes it go easier. And I started doing something like that, and it didn't really work because I found that I was getting different quality bridesmaids and groomsmen at every wedding. So sometimes I'd have the really loud bridesmaid who could, you know, gather 500 people if she wanted to, and then other times I'd have the really quiet bridesmaid who couldn't even, you know, get 5 for me. So the biggest sort of constant with all this was me. So I was like, well, I think I need to be the person here that sorts this, and being loud and, you know, sort of able to control a lot of people at once. I thought, well, I'm primed for this. But then came the issue of me doing too many things at once, hence the reason I shoot with one camera and give myself limited options. So I decided that there was a more logical way of doing this, and, you know, it fits 99% of all my couples, and that's you take the biggest amount of people on one side of the family and you work back. So, for example, I would say, you know, can I have all of the groom side of the family, bring them all over, and I would position them, you know, least important on the outside, more important on the inside. Always putting parents either side of the couple, because even then on a divorced weddings, a divorced parents group shot, you then don't make the mistake of putting them together.
Right.
So you eradicate that issue straight away, and then build out siblings, partners, and things like that. And then after you've done the first photo, the next photo is right in front of you. You've just got to get rid of the extended family on the end, and then work your way down and down and down and down and down. And yeah, I can rattle out, I think it was like 84 different photos. So I think it was about like 40 group shots in about 20 minutes.
Wow.
So I think, yeah, it's really, really fast.
And it's kind of the opposite, because I've heard people talk about like building up where it's like I
Yeah,
think we normally do that too. We add in. But the thing is, I feel like you have people aren't there, and then they've wandered
exactly.
off, and then it's like the older relatives like, oh, am I supposed to be in the picture? So I
Yeah,
feel like if you
exactly.
can get everybody in there first, then you can, kind of take them away. I can see
And
where
that's the
that would be
point. Yeah.
better. Yeah. Now,
And I was going to say, you say to a guest, "You're done now. Go and have fun," and you're their best friend. They
oh
love
yeah,
you.
that is the worst because as I said, I'm typically the second shooter. So I'm assisting normally during that time of the day and I'm trying to help wrangle people, but they turn on you. It's a
Yeah,
lot of times it's the fathers. They're like, are we done yet?
big
And
time.
they want to get to cocktail hours. They want to go see their friends. And, it's tough when you lose them. And the hard
Yeah,
part is it's the couple that are asking for it. So I think like you have people in a lot of my conversations that they want all these group shots, and I try to explain to them like how long it takes and the challenges that you have. And then invariably the day of the wedding, they're like, we want to get to cocktail hour. What do you say in your consult before the wedding day to kind of get the point across that you want to move quickly through this?
see, you're like straight on the money there because you've realized that this conversation happens well before the wedding day. Like, I'm building them up like so much beforehand, and the fact that you've found out that I do this is the same reason my couples are so easy and free with it, because they find out as well through the same means of Instagram education and like guides that I create on my website and stuff. But yeah, straight from the off, I'm talking to them, and when we have like an initial consultation, before they book, and I'm trying to convince them to book in a way, with as little sales tactics as possible, just trying to keep it really real and positive. I just ask them, tell me about, times you've been to weddings together. How did it go? Was it a positive experience? Was it a negative experience? And get them to discuss that. 9 times out of 10, they'll talk about the portrait part of the day, which gives me a perfect lead in to talk about how I do group shots. So straight from that off, we're talking about that. And then when it comes back round to their actual wedding day, we have like a final meeting a month before. There could be a chance between those 2 meetings where the couple might reach out to me and say, hey Adam, we're considering putting a group shot list together. Is that going to be okay? And I will just close it down straight away. Like, not even give them half an inch, like just straight away close it down.
What do you say?
Guys, I don't do this. This is not what we do. This is what we're going to do. I can then send them videos from behind the scenes stuff of when I've done it and explain exactly what happens. And, the fact that if we're going to do it their way, we're looking at about 5 minutes a photo. Whereas if we do it my way, they're going to get loads more. And even in the past, link them to full galleries so they can actually see the abundance of group shots within there and how that would work. And then I think the only times I would normally then fall into not an argument, but a disagreement as such, it would be if a couple, they wanted something that wasn't included in that. And I normally find that these photos can be categorized by group chat names. So like in the UK, we love using WhatsApp. I don't know if that's the same over in the US, but everyone's in a WhatsApp group with their friends and they've all got funny names, and so you could just say that name of that WhatsApp group and all those people will come over to you, and they're normally uni friends from university, or friends from a sports team, or friends from back home or something. So that's really easy to then just add that extra one onto the end at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think the difference there is that when you're having that conversation with them, I'm typically hearing people say like, on your wedding day, this is what we're going to do. And this is what, but I think everyone is imagining their wedding day just being perfect and nothing going wrong. And the difference is you were saying, think back to weddings that you've been in. And then that's the actual pain that they're remembering, standing around waiting. So I think that might be the big difference, because they're always going to assume that their day is going to be great, and, they're going to discount whatever you're saying. But if you have them thinking back, that probably brings them around. And I like that you put your foot down and you just say, this is how we're doing it. Yeah.
100%, because it will always work much, much better at the time. And it's a case of now where, like, it's more, I'm selling my personality to come to their wedding day a lot of the times. The photos are great, I'm not saying they're going to win many awards here and there, whatever. People can be the judge of that themselves. But it's more so about having me there to ease the process 99% of the time. And people, that's how I built my name and where it's come from. It's not just on the back of the photographs.
Now, I know on your website, someplace I read that you are a 6'7" personality-led wedding photographer.
Yeah.
I really like that. When people are talking about you, couples that have worked with you, what words are they using to describe you when they're like referring people to you?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I wouldn't really know, to be honest. I would just say like jovial, fun, like a bit of banter here and there with them as well. And and it's not just one way, but like knowing how to pitch it. So I can pitch it right, whether I'm talking to a 90-year-old grandma or a 17-year-old teenager. Like I normally find that I've got a really good way of knowing people and their personalities, like from the off, and even if I've just met them like two seconds ago as well. But I think the biggest eye-opener for me, when it confirmed that I was the difference and I was the reason people were booking me instead of someone else, I had a groom who, when I shot his wedding, we had a really great time. But he was one of those people who just doesn't really give you a lot in terms of like their body language towards you, or he'd say, yeah, that was great, but he wouldn't say much more at the end of the day. And he came back to me about 3 years later after his wedding and was like, Adam, I've just been to a wedding. And yeah, it's made me realize what you did on our day, which I thought was normal, and it turns out it's not. So yeah, they'd been to a wedding where someone was really standoffish as a photographer, didn't really come out the bushes and take control. They sort of stood in the background the whole time, which is fine if that's what they want to be, but then they can't expect chaos not to unfold, as we all know, because weddings can be that way. So yeah, that's
such a testament, because for a groom 3 years later to say that to you, because I think it's so true. Couples on their wedding day, if they, it's typically their first wedding, and they may not understand how well it's going or what it could be like, because part of our jobs is to protect them from other things that are going wrong. But from the photography standpoint, I bet a lot of times they don't even know how much they should be appreciating it, because I think we really can kind of just impact the day, like the mood and the energy and all of that. So it seems like you have such a good presence on the wedding day that, you're getting great photos, but just also keeping them at ease and like in good spirits and calm and having that big impact on the day.
Yeah, 100%. And I found social media has just been such a great way to educate them beforehand of what to expect, so that when you get there, all the hard work's really done for you. And my greatest thing now is that people are finding me through TikTok as well, which is purely video, and I can really stand out on that platform and sell that side of the business, rather than when we're just showing the photography, it's just based on the photography. And maybe we write a little bit of a caption which gives some feeling and some emotion, but it's really hard to show what exactly is going on behind the camera, which is worth the extra money at the end of the day.
I think that's a really good point, because when it's images, it's, they might fall in love with some images, but as far as like knowing the photographer, I think that is a huge differentiator, because in your videos, you can see you and just your energy and how you're moving around and talking to people. And that, I think, is huge, because it just educates them going in. And you might not be the cup of tea for everybody, but they're going to know. And those people that aren't a good fit aren't going to reach out to you. But I think that you're probably getting more qualified couples because they're seeing that. It's a huge, I think, the video portion, because most photographers were just posting still images and, stories and trying to do reels and not doing them well. So that's another total kind of turn there. So I don't do video, but I just recently decided that I have to get a little bit better at like reels and video. So I started researching gimbals. Just from my phone, and I got the Insta360 Flow, and then I saw on your page that you partnered with them, or you use Insta360 products. So how did that come about, and what do you use?
Originally, I saw a few UK wedding photographers using the Go. I think they were using Go 2 at the time, and I liked what they were doing, but knew that it could be sort of taken further. And then I sort of forgot about it, and then I was on.
You forgot
on
to
TikTok
copy them.
Yeah, I forgot to copy them. Yeah, my whole business is a sham of copying, basically. But no, I've been found out live on a podcast. But I think it was about 6 months to a year later, I was just, sitting down, death scrolling on my phone, and I saw a rollerblader being filmed by what looked like was a drone flying around him, and I was absolutely mesmerized, and I couldn't for the life of me work out how he'd done it. And in the end, I searched the comments so much, like asked people, and then eventually found out that it was the Insta360 X2 at the time with their invisible selfie stick. So this selfie stick, it's not actually invisible, obviously, but the way it works is that the selfie stick is in the same line that the body of the camera's in. Okay. So it cuts out that section of the world in a way, and you get both sections glued together then to make it look like it's invisible. So I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I can put that on my hot shoe on my camera somehow, and I wonder how it would look. So I took a bit of a pricey risk, and as we all do with gear, just spent I think it's £400 at the time, and ordered an X2 and started using it, and I was absolutely hooked from the get go. And yeah, since then it always comes to, well, that doesn't come to weddings with me anymore because I sold that one. The freebie ones that Insta360 sent me come with me now, and they're the Insta360 X3s. But I was starting making the videos, and Insta360 reached out and offered to just send me gear, and then offered to send me more gear, and then offered to send me a bit more gear. So that was really great.
So you're on your own shooting the wedding, no second shooter, no assistant, and then also capturing some video.
Yeah, that sounds a bit crazy now, doesn't it?
Yeah. When you say it out loud, it does sound crazy. But I feel like you're doing such a good job of finding couples that are going to get along with you and like working with you. You go in, you probably don't have a ton of surprises that like freak you out. And so it's not an anxious day. So I feel like you guys just go in and, you and the couple, and you just, for the most part, have a nice wedding day.
I think, you've hit the nail on the head, really, there. It's something I've only been coming to terms with, really, over the last few months, that my weddings are actually getting easier. And there's two things there. One of them is that beforehand, that bit's getting easier. And that's because with those behind-the-scenes videos, I'm removing the fear, as I like to put it. So I think as like a wedding couple, when you're booking a wedding photographer or a venue or anything really, you're booking it with a lot of fear in mind, because you're not really sure how that's going to then turn out on the day and be transformed on the day, because you've never got married before. So there's that fear involved. But if I, as a wedding photographer, can show you what I'm like on the wedding day, and show you through so many videos that I can't possibly be lying or putting on a show,
right?
That's a real selling technique, and that's a real one-up compared to everybody else out there. So then when you get to the wedding day, their shoulders are back. Mum's coming up to you saying, "Oh, they showed me one of your little videos this morning. I thought it was really fun. Are you going to be doing that today?"
Yeah.
So they get a bit excited about it as well. So it's really fun, and like I say, it sets expectations where they should be set, equal to what I can deliver, and also removes that fear.
It makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because typically a photographer is having, a phone call with someone, a consult, maybe it's a video consult. We used to meet in person a lot more, but it's still like one or two interactions. Like, you don't really get to know the person in a lot of cases, like their real personality. So I feel like your couples probably really feel like they kind of know you before the wedding day. And that's got to make just a huge difference. Yeah,
you're so right. And the best thing is as well, so when I realized a while ago was that we don't have to really know them as much because their wedding is such a visual diarrhea of their life that we can turn up and gain an understanding of them very quickly with the information we've already gathered from the meetings we've had before. But when it comes to knowing you, that's a little bit harder, and also everyone else knowing you as well, and having that sort of faith and belief from them is just really important. And I turn up to weddings loads now, and people will not quote me, but they'll mention sections of video that they've seen and that have stuck with them, and they'll say, "Oh, yeah, because obviously you do it like this because that's what you always do." And I'm like, that's a bit freaky, but yes, that's correct.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're right too, that how the day is going to unfold. As a second shooter, in most cases, I've never met the couple or talked to them. I know their name and I've seen their timeline, and I show up and I'm just like, hi. And, I go from there as the second. But it's true. As long as they're comfortable, it's going to be a lot easier for you because you know what you're walking into.
Yeah, you're used to turning up and not knowing everyone, but making everyone feel comfortable. So that's fine.
Exactly. That's par for the course with us. So I know it's really late over there.
It's fine.
Any other advice you would give for, I would say, wedding photographers getting into the business and or people that have been in the business, tips to make their jobs easier or better for areas of frustration?
Wow. Well, one thing I always think about is a lot, like you said it before, a lot of wedding photographers are just posting pictures and the occasional story to their Instagram and then wonder why it's not really working that well. And it's just have a look at what everyone else is doing and then try and just be better and different. Because, in a sea of amazing wedding photographs that we see these days, and, the whole world is open now. So people are seeing photographs from elopements, in upstate New York and comparing it to your local work
Milford.
And stuff. So
the Milford water.
Yeah, Milford. Yeah, back in Milford. But so it's really hard to stand out as a wedding photographer. So I've always used extra things like, for example, the Insta360 to put myself up there a bit more and give myself a bit more of a difference when it comes to marketing myself as a business, really. And then just knowing what you're great at and shouting about it, really. It sounds really arrogant, and I hope I haven't come across arrogant.
No.
But knowing your positives and knowing your strengths and just really leaning into them. So the fact that you've picked up on some of my, what I would say is my cornerstone things that, I bring as a business, is just really important to me. And I must be putting out there really well. If, I haven't directed you at all to, these questions haven't been prearranged.
No, we just jumped right into it.
It's quite nice to see you reach out, and mention them, because it means that my couples are seeing them as well, which is really important to me. So yeah, and having those things be something, once again, that stands out compared to everyone else. I think often when we're in forums and stuff, we see other people doing well and we think, oh, we'll just carry on doing what they're doing as well, and we'll add that into the business. And like you said, when you go on a workshop, you'll pick up a few things. But I think you've just got to be thinking next level all the time. You've got to be going, okay, right, everyone's telling me I've got to post reels and everyone's posting slideshows with pictures. So what could I do that's better than that? And then go from there.
Yeah. I think, kind of what you had said too, that makes sense is in the very beginning, a lot of wedding photographers will say, I look back at my first couple weddings and I had no business shooting that wedding. And you had said in the very beginning, most of your weddings are, lower budget, the lower end of the spectrum. So I feel like you probably weren't feeling like an imposter, and they knew as well, like you said, what they were getting. So I think that probably, it sounds like, may have set the stage for just going in authentic and, even playing field, having the right expectations going into it. And that's served you really well. And you've really just taken that to the next level as far as, getting the right clients for you and making sure everyone's on the same page. So, and you've done it with, like you said, the video aspect of it that I think a lot of us are just missing out on.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that at the start, just being honest with people, and, it was lucky that me getting into photography and getting into shooting weddings timed perfectly with people starting to get married within, close and wider friendship groups. If I was, I'm now 34, if I had to start now, it'd be a lot harder, and I definitely would go down the route of doing second shooting more because I wouldn't have that wider network of people just wanting to get married.
Right. Yeah. And your mom's obviously a huge
she's
part of your lead funnel.
massive. My mom, and then my sausage dog as well, because everybody loves my sausage dog. So yeah, I booked a lot of weddings just because I had a sausage dog.
Just because of Juno?
Yeah, just because of Juno. Yeah,
I had a miniature dachshund when I was actually, my parents had him before I was even born. So when I was a baby, we had Rudy was his name.
Oh, amazing.
So, but yeah, people love this.
My best friend.
Aw. That's fantastic. Tell me real quick, the workshops that you offer. You have social media workshops. Do you have a lot of different workshops?
So it's more a case of sort of what time of year I'm in and what I'm planning at the moment. So I've got an Instagram one that's digital, so that's available to just buy off my site.
Okay.
So adamlowndes.co.uk/education. You can find it on there. And then at the moment, I'm hosting my first in-person all day. So I've done in-person before, but this is going to be all day. And that's going to be more of a kind of like business and marketing, and mostly like talking about those kind of things with a little bit of how I shoot in the middle. So it's what I like to call a non-sexy workshop that will make you money though. So I find a lot of people selling very sexy workshops where they shoot beautiful couples and beautiful destinations. This is not that. This is how to actually make money as a wedding photographer.
It's important.
Have a business that lasts. I think it's underrated in this in the industry that a lot of people don't talk enough about the business fundamentals and good business practice in a way. But yeah, that one's in person, so obviously it's going to be a little bit harder for people to make it over the pond for that. But if they just keep in touch with me on Instagram, I'm always running some kind of digital workshops for TikTok or Instagram or different things. But at the moment I've been focusing on, I've actually been going into schools in my local area, trying to just that's been like a goodwill thing. I don't get paid for that, and just doing careers talks with the kids and stuff, and that's something I get a lot from. It builds up loads of like positive reinforcement in sort of a drab January when you've got less work. So that's really nice. And obviously the rest of the work I do in the year affords me that possibility financially, but that's really great. I love doing that.
I feel like that's something that's got to be really rewarding, just seeing the kids' faces and, being able to talk to them. It's a career path that most people aren't talking about in high schools.
Exactly. A big thing for me has always been that when I was that age, it was all academic subjects and no one talked about creative subjects. And as well, whenever anyone talked about creative subjects, it was more of a hippie thing and no one made any money from it. And now, I'm sure you realise, and I realise, there's a lot of money to be made from this this camera. So yeah, it's great to go in and give kids that hope that maybe don't meet that academic like dream, that standard dream that people have as much. And as a byproduct, I always think when those kids grow older, they'll be asked by their peers, who's a good photographer? Because you like photography, don't you? So yeah. So maybe 6 years down the line, that'll start paying back.
Networking, handing out cards to the school students. I like it.
Yeah. For a future payback in 6 years. It's a very long-winded effort, but maybe it'll work.
In the future. Yeah. These kids go home to their parents. They've got a bunch of business cards in their backpack. Oh my goodness.
Not quite that bad, but yeah.
Here's another question for you. Your wedding packages, do you offer different durations? Like a lot of people will offer 8, 10, 12 hours of coverage. I talked to someone recently where she switched over to like an all day but within reason package, so she really is only offering one thing and then like a la carte options. What do your packages look like?
Yeah, so this might be, I'm not sure if this will translate well. But so I recently changed. So I don't have prices on my site. I don't know if that's a done thing. They have to inquire for my prices. And then I have 3 price lists. So the couple only ever see one of those 3. I have one, which is my normal rate. I have one that's slightly higher than that, which is my normal rate plus some kind of bonus, because maybe it's a bit too far away, or maybe I've got to stay overnight, or maybe I'm just not that fond of the venue, or maybe it's on a prime day in the wedding calendar. I'm sure you might have been there before, but you'll book a job on a day, and then everyone else comes in with these amazing inquiries for that day. So I wanted to make myself feel better if I did ever accept something like that in the future, and it definitely has been going that way. And then I have one that's just under my normal price, and that's for weddings that are local to me, at venues that I shoot a lot, and or for weddings I just really, really want. I'll sometimes take a hit financially just to get that and place it in my portfolio. So for example, venues that I'm really eager to shoot to add to, my SEO and my just all around database of photographs and stuff. I'll give them that little incentive to book. I call that my favored pricing. So rather than it being discount or like these kind of negative words like coupon or like, voucher or whatever, it's favored. So like I favor their wedding also on my side. And when it comes to like the actual packages within those pricing, I have just two options. I have it's all, I say all day, I'm saying that in inverted commas.
Yeah.
So it's all day, or it's all day plus album. So it's very simple. More so because, like I said before, I get a lot of decision fatigue myself. So I hate seeing too much options when it comes to picking something myself. I'm the kind of person who really wants to know what the best office chair is, but hates doing the research. That's me. I'd rather someone just tell me. So yeah, I've said to my couples, I've said, right, okay, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a minimum of 2 hours before the ceremony to a minimum of 1 hour after the first dance. Now in the UK, that normally works really well. And as I described to my couples on the initial call, that 2 hours before the ceremony, that's like within reason. So if they need me to show up earlier, maybe I've got to go photograph the boys in a different location and that's going to take me a bit of time, then I will often start earlier than that. But it's all about giving them enough that you can like undersell the expectations in a way to then like blow them out the water on the day and stay for longer. So when it comes to an hour after first dance, which in the UK is normally about like 9, half 9, I'll sort of look at what's going on. If the dance floor is absolutely raging, I'll stick around because I love the dance floor and it earns me some extra brownie points. And and then as soon as I go, I'll just let the couple know, and I'll always say, I stayed over because it looks so good, just so they know, because I can tell you now, a couple have got no idea what time of day it is on their wedding day, and if you say you're going, you could have stayed over 2 hours and they won't know.
Oh, they've got no idea what time it is. And you know what? The other thing too, when you're saying that, we're talking about timelines and things, when couples are making their inquiry, their timeline's not done, so they have no idea if you're trying to sell an 8, 10, or 12-hour package.
Exactly.
So that's another reason why I think it's tough, because they really have no clue how to put together a timeline yet. So I feel like I'm getting swayed. My last 2 conversations have been like what you're saying. So
yeah, I used to do 8, 10, and 12 hours, I think, and I'd get to a point where they'd have booked 8 hours, and I was squeezing stuff in on the day, and I just ended up giving them 3 hours most of the time. So I was giving them a discount for those as well, when they booked less hours. So then in the end, I was like, well, I'm just going to charge the top price of those hours. So I'll charge my 12 hours. But then if they need less, I can do less. So sometimes I'll do wedding days that are like 9, 10 hours. And other days I'll do ones that are 12, 13. But it's all very much of a muchness. Like, I'm sure you're aware that, like, just because it's 12, 13, it's a longer day, but it doesn't mean they squeeze more into it. It's normally just spread out over a longer amount of time.
In the US, we're starting to see, or at least in Pennsylvania, more and more wedding content creators. Are you guys seeing this over there, where you're getting someone who's not a photographer, not a videographer, but they're shooting like cell phone footage and they're turning it around like within 24, 48 hours for the couple to use on social media?
Yeah, it's becoming more of a thing. I haven't worked with one myself yet. I know people who have worked with one, and to be honest, I'm not particularly worried about it. How do you feel?
I'm not worried about it either. I think first and foremost, it's not going to go away. So people need to figure out how to get on board with it. I think
exactly.
My initial concern would be I imagine the demographic of content creators to be someone who's younger, who's just good at social media and may not have the experience of the wedding day. So I worry about them like getting in the way or not understanding protocol, but that's obviously something that can be dealt with through communication. So I don't know. I'm really coming around to it. I think it's, like I said, I don't think it's going away. So I think it's something that's interesting. And I think it could be an opportunity for people to get, behind the scenes footage, photographers that aren't doing anything like what you're doing. This could be an opportunity for them,
Exactly.
So
they should be selling it up to get some extra footage,
Exactly.
Saying, I'll bring along this person, taking a cut, like in recommending him a referral fee or something.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So, all right. Well, I'm glad you're on board with it. I like it. I just started seeing it like towards the end of last year, and I think it's really going to blow up this year. And people are saying things like, they're suggesting like moms or bridesmaids, purchase it as a gift to the bride and like, surprise her with it. So I said people are saying,
I'm not sure how that would go down, but yeah.
Right? Yeah, I know. It's different than photography and videography. So it's going to be interesting just to see how these worlds mesh. So
I always find, like when you're on Facebook forums and stuff like groups, it's always interesting to see the people who are moaning about these new things, because if it's, excuse me, but like the older generation of people who are just done with wedding photography anyway, then I go, oh, maybe it deserves a chance. But if it's the new wave of people moaning about it, then you go, actually, maybe there's something to worry about. So yeah, that's a really good sort of like finger in the air test for it.
Yeah, it's true. Definitely. So, but it's also going to be like what the couples want. And who knows, maybe it could be a trend where, there's an uptick and then it fades away. But I think it'll depend.
I know there's a couple of photographers in the UK that are actually, and I could definitely do this if I had the time with my behind the scenes footage, but they'll edit some iPhone footage to music and charge for it. They do it as a little sort of mini video highlight reel thing.
Oh, wow. Now, did they discuss that beforehand, or is it like after the fact?
Yeah, so it's an upsell. It's like an a la carte upsell, yeah.
Yeah. It's smart too, because, you're getting then behind the scenes, you're doing it anyway, potentially. So.
Yeah, it's more money to be made. I mean, they're doing it on an iPhone, so they have to pull their iPhone out as well. But yeah, I could easily do it on the top of my camera. But yeah, I don't know. It's just another thing, and we only have so much time for doing so many things, don't we?
It's exactly, especially if you're carrying multiple cameras, a bunch of lenses, too many bags.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on. I love what you're doing. I love, just the content that you put out, the way that you're educating your couples. You're doing beautiful photography. It looks like you're having fun while you're doing it. So, and you're educating people as well, which I love. So I will be sure to get from you all of the links to include in the show notes so people can see where they can, take your workshops and where they can, purchase some of your courses and things like that. Maybe we'll get some links for the Insta360 products that you like.
Yeah, I've got a whole equipment list, so I can just send you that over.
That would be perfect. All right. Well, is there anything else that we didn't talk about?
No, I've just been super surprised at how much research you've done.
Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on, and have a good night. Good night. Go to bed. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to A Second Helping. Please like and subscribe.
We could fly so